Hey guys, welcome back for another episode. Last weekend we had a board game day at my friend Adam's, and it really inspired me to want to create a new series of videos entitled My Favorite Board Games. And I wanted to start off the series with my personal favorite board game of all time, HeroQuest. HeroQuest was released in 1990 by Milton Bradley, and the game was a partnership between Milton Bradley and European games developer Games Workshop. Games Workshop is famous for Warhammer Online, stuff like that, so I'm sure you've heard of them before. But when HeroQuest came out, it was unlike any other board game that was out at that time. And the game is for 1 to 5 players, and one person plays the Dungeon Master, and the Dungeon Master's name is Zargon. And then you have 4 other players that can play as a barbarian, a dwarf, an elf, or a mage. I got this for Christmas one year, and the gameplay was unlike anything I'd ever experienced in a board game before. As a kid, we would take turns playing the Dungeon Master, and then my brother or sister, or me and my brother, would play the actual characters and go through the dungeons. But each mission is different. I know with the main quest, I think you get like 12 missions to go through and play. And with each of the expansions, you have new spells, new artifacts, and new monsters that are introduced to the whole system. And these 2 expansions right here, the Return of the Witch Lord and Keller's Keep, are the most common in North America, and there are other expansions that are a lot more rare than these, and they can go upwards of $400 a piece. There was an expansion for each one of the actual characters of the game, and they had a very limited release, and you can see them going on eBay for very high prices. But the game itself is just, it's great. It's very well thought out, very well laid out. And a lot of the enemies that are used in the game, the models that are used are very high detail, and a lot of them are still used in the Warhammer universe today. Now, they might have changed a little bit, but you can definitely see the similarities in some of the Goblin armies of Warhammer, and definitely in some of the Chaos armies in Warhammer. And it's a really solid game. You can generally find the Hero's Quest board game set for around $100 on eBay, depending on the condition it's in. If it's in really good condition, all the pieces are intact, or maybe had never been played before, it can go upwards of $100. But it's very affordable. If you love board games and you love fantasy, definitely give this a try if you haven't played it before. Now, as this relates to video games, there actually was a HeroQuest NES game in development at the time, and I believe it came out on the maybe Commodore 64. There was a version of HeroQuest, but the actual NES game plays very similar to the game itself, whereas you roll dice for each of your characters, and the missions are basically exactly like in the book here. But for some reason the game didn't make it to release, and you can find a homebrew version on eBay occasionally, and it goes for $20 to $30, and you can actually play the game itself. And I don't know if it's completely finished or not, but I've seen some of the gameplay, and it's pretty solid for the NES at the time. But definitely, guys, if you love board games and you love fantasy, give this game a try. We played it last weekend, and it held up. I mean, it held up from over 20 years ago when it was released. I had just as much fun playing it last weekend as I did when I was a kid. And I would recommend the game from kids maybe 10 and up, just because of the level of difficulty of it. But any child, above the age 10 should be fine playing it. And you should have a lot of fun playing it. I played the Dungeon Master last weekend, and I had just as much fun playing that as if I would have played one of the actual characters. So let's check out this footage of the actual game board set up, you can kind of get an idea of where everybody sits in the game, how everything's set up, and you can see the privacy screen in front of the Dungeon Master. It has kind of a quick reference of all the monsters' stats and hit points, damage, etc. And as you can see, it's very straightforward. The game board's very high quality. All the pieces are very high quality, and the cards. And it does kind of have a level up system. In between dungeons, you can buy gear for your character, kind of level them up in a way, and just a solid game. I'm droning on here, but I really can't say enough about it. But definitely, guys, check out this game. It's easy to learn. Add it to the rotation of board games. I promise you won't be disappointed. Great series, and it's not something that you're going to spend 3 hours learning the rules before you can actually start playing. It's maybe 10 minutes of reading the booklet to learn how to set it up, and then bam, you're ready to go. Alright guys, that's it for this episode of My Favorite Board Games. Definitely leave me a comment in the comment section below and let me know what you think about this new series of videos. And just like with my other series, if you have a question, comment, maybe a suggestion for an upcoming game that you want to see reviewed in this series, leave it down below. Or even give me a video response of your favorite board games. And as always, I'll see you guys next time.